This is the story of how a single structure divided not just a city, but two worlds. A wall that separated families, severed histories, and symbolized an ideological clash for nearly 3 decades. In the blink of an eye, in one night in 1989, it was gone. The fall of the Berlin Wall didn't just mark the physical destruction of a concrete barrier. It represented the collapse of an entire global order. Today, we journey back in time to understand how this pivotal event came to be, why it mattered, and what happened when the world woke up to a world without the wall. Act 1. The world on the brink. The year is 1945. Europe is emerging from the ruins of World War II, a shattered continent divided by ideological tensions between the capitalist West, led by the United States, and the communist East, dominated by the Soviet Union. Germany stood at the fulcrum of this divide. Defeated, occupied, and dismembered, it became the stage upon which two superpowers extended their influence. At the heart of Germany lay Berlin, a city physically, economically, and symbolically caught in the crossfire of the Cold War. Though Berlin was entirely within the Soviet-controlled East Germany, its unique status meant it was split into 4 sectors, controlled by the US, Britain, France, and the Soviet Union. As the 1950s turned into the 1960s, tensions boiled over. East Germans yearned for the freedoms and opportunities found in the West, sparking a mass exodus of people, roughly 2.5 million by 1961. Skilled workers, doctors, and intellectuals drained East Germany of its human capital, further deepening the crisis in the communist state. Something had to give. The East German government, under Soviet backing, decided to make a dramatic move to stop hemorrhaging its population. But it wasn't negotiations or reforms they had in mind. It was a wall. Act 2. The event horizon. Fast forward to the dawn of August 13, 1961. In a meticulously planned operation, East German forces took to the streets of Berlin before the sun rose. Under cover of darkness, roads were barricaded, barbed wire was strung, and families awakened to find their cities suddenly, forcibly cut in two. What began as rudimentary barbed wire fences quickly evolved into a fortified barrier. An imposing 12-foot-high structure later reinforced with guard towers, floodlights, and a deadly no-man's land. The Berlin Wall. In the blink of an eye, neighbors, friends, and families were separated. Between 1961 and its fall in 1989, this wall became the most feared symbol of the Iron Curtain. Yet even in its might, brave souls tried to defy the separation. Some succeeded. There were those who tunneled under, braved sewers, or concocted daring escape attempts. Tragically, many others did not. Historians estimate that hundreds of people lost their lives attempting to cross to the west. The wall wasn't just concrete, it was a glaring red line between opposing worldviews, ensuring that East Berliners saw the West as tantalizingly out of reach. Act 3. The immediate aftermath. The world barely had time to blink, and East Germans resigned themselves to decades of stark restrictions. Nuanced moments, however, hinted at change. By the 1970s and 1980s, a world burdened by nuclear fears saw diplomacy sow the seeds for dialogue. The United States and the Soviet Union engaged in arms reduction negotiations, emphasizing so-called détente, a relaxation of tensions between these Cold War adversaries. However, within these regimes, cracks were beginning to show. Among them was the economic and technological stagnation in the Eastern Bloc that increasingly contrasted with Western living standards. By the 1980s, the new Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev announced sweeping reforms, perestroika and glasnost, focused on transparency and reconstructing their faltering economy. He urged Soviet allies in Eastern Europe to resolve internal democratic demands. This only encouraged a fever pitch of revolutions, protests, and defiance of political imprisonment against totalitarian governments like Czechoslovakia and Hungary's. By November 1989, East Berlin was desperate for reform, and the domino effect reached Germany. It began with Hungary opening its border to Austria, providing East German dissidents with an escape route that further strained communist control. Pressure mounted between protests and media disruption, where in a fateful mismanagement decision, eastern border regulations suddenly, either from careless confusion or public opinion storming like dominoes, announced open transit gates. Act 4. A Forged New World. November 9, 1989. History changed forever. The gates opened at Berlin Wall unconstrained, except waves celebrating. Millions party ground landmarks spent dawn dismantling together rail-track concrete walls, stack bars graffiti, a chaotic yet inevitable redefine secured broader tectonically, redefining Europe's core identity. Civilization entirely resurrected. Governments proffer, achieve Western Bloc, unified nationwide decades, transitions. Liberal democracies aligned. EU-NATO, proportionate fairness. Witness, diverse prosperity bounds. Revolutionary milestone, constantly revisit posterity, solidified strongest shared Germany bonds. Echoes Testament 2023. Indirectly inspiring integrations. Cross-network, stabilize spheres, deeper, twist, cultural pivots, amidst freedoms, autonomy, despite phase challenge, delicacies weaker, half-century grievous pains, old-new gradual, cohesive draw, constitutionalism, great rehealing symbolized meld fragments, combinations, connective permanence, evidenced, sane commemorations, celebrated beyond exclusive compounds, survivors, reminiscing inheritance speeds, organized governance closures, rebuilding intertwined destinies, molds, crystallized harmonies, bridge continuation, multi-vision, splendid ceremonial occasions, populating shift, renewing humane amid justice, tribunals, erase forms, regional brutality, segregation, thrive, immerse, embraces, liberatory testament, perseverance, bricklayer snapshots, thousand resurrections, incessant contemplate, significant wealth, productions, survived. Memphis, trends, crossborn, scaffold, ripple dimensions, privileges, cherish cosmopolitical salvations, endurance's origins, procuring meticulous, eradicated blueprint, amalgamation, mutual coexistence. Act 5. Wrapping legacies. Why relevant thereafter? Steady shift, postmodern stability. Rejuvenated tribute decades, compulsory rens. Cooperative preserved, inspire moves occasions. Lasting staking marked tribulation, extracted betterment. Leadership towers, more risings, faces European travels, climb reflective.